Welcome to Independent School District 191, Burnsville-Eagan-Savage Legislative Committee. I am chair of this committee, Director Leslie Chester. We have Director Tony Connor here. We also have Senator. Yes. As our guest, and we have Superintendent Dr. Battle here joining us tonight. So welcome for anybody watching online.
Not watching.
Or
watching you. That's right.
Watching
We're
me.
not on camera. They are, not us.
watching us on camera. And so thank you for joining us tonight. I know that we're going to be going heavy into this next legislative session, and we're trying to gear up with what will become our new priorities, and wanted to share what our current, past year's priorities are and what we're moving or thinking of moving forward. So we have a copy of our current legislative platform. And thanks to our legislators, we did get that clarification for SROs, and our SROs are back in our school. So we appreciate that very much. And other movements too. But of course, we still want to have that fully fund mandates for essential services, and we want to reduce the cross subsidy for special ed and ELL, and creating that, and then also where we're kind of held harmless, right, with the free meals, with the compensatory, that there's a permanent solution to that. It's something we're strongly needing and advocating for as well. And then, of course, costs don't keep up with, we're not keeping up with inflation yet, so we also want that cost per pupil. We appreciate that it's built into the budget. We still our district, and along with many others, would benefit from a little more. So when we met as a committee last month, we were wanting to hear from, as mentioned, MSBA, Scale, and AMSD with their priorities. And Dr. Battle had submitted information to those areas that were requesting information, so that when they pull together what becomes their priorities, our district's voice was added into that. And so usually that comes out,
I think next month we're going
in
to
the next
finalize
month. Yeah, it's like October, early November.
Yeah.
So from there, we want to, we'll identify, some of these that are here will continue to stay as they are priorities for our district. And we are interested in hearing from, those other sources to help maybe guide what other big priorities we would identify for our district. Do you have any questions or more information? Dr. Bell, do you have anything to add?
Well, just to add, as you said, AMSD and the Scott County Association for Leadership Efficiency, they will be finalizing their platforms too, as well as Minnesota School Boards Association. But in addition, any questions you have, what is on your mind about this upcoming session and things that you're interested in?
I think we have, we'll have a different sort of 2-year block than we had last time. We don't have, I'm expecting we won't have a huge surplus like we did 2 years ago. And so much of that money was one-time money. And so really, wondering how you guys are feeling. Do you feel like you're facing cliffs with, I know we tried to do more of the long-term money to education rather than so much one-time, but some of it was one-time funding. And that is sort of making me, I don't want to say panic, but we can't ignore the fact that, we helped solve some problems, but with one-time money, that means we just pushed the cliff off. Not that we solved for the cliff. So, wondering where you think those areas are going to be that are facing the biggest cliff that we really need to be prepared for. And also would love to hear and talk about like how is teacher retention going. I know we have a shortage of teachers, and so really interested in how y'all are feeling about that at this point. And I know of the districts around here, you all have really put a priority on teachers of color and making sure you have teachers in our school who represent our community. And how is that going? How are you feeling about our ability to keep doing that work into the future?
I'll hand that to you,
Yeah.
Dr. Battle.
So I'll thank you, Director Chester. So we also are a member of Intermediate District 917, so I think you'll add a little bit about that. But the teacher shortage, it's interesting. We've actually had some parents that we've hired. We've seen some of our graduates come back. And then we are looking at international teachers. We followed the lead of one of the intermediate 917, but other districts. And so that funding through 917 is actually providing some professional development. They received a grant from the state that are, right now we have five teachers, international teachers, and they are going to sign up for that professional development. So as far as teacher retention, it comes from making sure that we give them, we just finished negotiations, you know, that compensation package is really important. So having that per pupil, that increase was good to build in. So I don't know if Director Chester want to talk more about we still are looking for educational assistants.
Yeah, there's a big shortage.
And our lead is in special education too, I would say.
Yeah, and following, I sit on 917's board as being part of the member district. I also know 288 also has launched bringing international teachers in to help with the shortage going on, especially in special ed in those areas, and have been finding success. In fact, I think they're bringing more teachers in very soon.
That's great.
And then we received a Grow Your Own grant for adults, and we had our first hire last year, so really thankful for that. Teachers of color, also male teachers
Yeah,
who are underrepresented
Very
also.
much, yeah.
yeah, and
So that we also
Black
had that
Men
on
Teach
the
is a big
agenda.
organization here that there's a opportunity to partner with, I think.
Right, so that platform that we have currently also has that support for Grow Your Own.
Great.
So
Yes.
as I tell many people, the employees we want are in our high schools right now. So we also have a student pathway grant too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to know that graduates are coming back and wanting to teach speaks to the district in a lot of different ways, like the experience they had as students, that they're willing to come back here, that they want to live in our community. That's speaks really highly of the work that you all are doing.
And I also think the other thing is for people, for professionals who maybe not have their teacher's license but want to pursue it, who are like EAs or whatever, there's a track that tries to help them get licensed quicker and while working. And so that's a big push too.
So in that grant we do have some educational assistance. In some hard to fill areas, so early childhood as well as special ed, so.
I feel like I'm missing a question you had. What was it?
Are there cliffs that you're
Yeah.
particularly worried about with the one-time investments that we made?
I think as a district, we've done well in terms of how we even budgeted, knowing that the pandemic ESSER dollars were kind of a one-time deal
Yep.
too, that we didn't want to face that proverbial cliff.
Yep.
I think, we still try to budget and work that way, understanding the various funding sources. At the same time, though, it's hard to lose funding or
Yeah,
have funding
absolutely.
disappear,
Yeah.
too. So, I think, whatever can be where it becomes, because I remember when I first was elected onto the board and we were facing a really big major budget cut, and I think it might have been the year that the state gave zero. And so for me, I think of, government sources, if there's a way to
Yeah.
not make that be like a guess, I think that really helps.
Being able to plan out
Yeah.
farther and know you have that stability.
Yeah, even if it's we're guaranteeing this percent, it could
Yeah.
go up, but,
Yep.
I think that really sets the pace for planning accordingly. I'm trying to think of other cliffs we might have.
Well, we'll see some of the mandates we have.
Oh.
Your state auditor will give you information for the unemployment, and you did set aside for 2 years.
Yep.
It was about 135 million, I think.
Great.
Yeah, so we'll take a look at those and see the impact. The READ Act, really useful, but it is intense. I'm hearing from teachers, it is intense, and administrators that are taking it alongside. But it's necessary because we want to make sure that our children are reading at or above grade level.
Yep.
So just taking a look at that, I think, on some of those mandates and the continued costs for that.
Yeah, I think
So
the
it's
READ Act
good
is
to-
one of the ones that we're watching really carefully because it is making sure that our kids have the literacy support that they need is so critical. But it is intensive. It's intensive for a reason, but we then have to fund it to that level and make sure we're giving the resources that the schools will need, but also the administration and the extra time that it takes to get teachers up to the level that they need to be to teach that. So something we're planning to watch very carefully, but would be really helpful, as this year is progressing through and you're really getting on that on the ground feedback from teachers, like not waiting until next year to let us know, oh, here are where the bumps in the road are.
Yeah.
Just staying in touch through those because we want to make sure that we know it's a big program,
Right.
And we want to make sure we're catching things as they're happening. And I do think that for me, and I think for a lot of people, I moved to Minnesota for the schools. I came here for college and didn't leave and have no plans to leave and want my kids to go to Minnesota schools because they just have had such an incredible reputation, and that only happens if we put the funding necessary into them. And I do think it matters that our legislature's getting a little bit younger every year, and there are more parents in the legislature who really see the impact that our schools have and the challenges that our schools are facing in real time. And I think that matters when you get to sort of the priorities at the legislature. So I'm really hopeful, and my top priority going into this next year is making sure that we are funding our schools to the appropriate level. I think we always talk about fully funding education, right? But we've never come even close. I don't think any of us even know what fully funding our education would look like because you all have been doing it with rubber bands and duct tape for a really long time and making it work, but we can do better. And I'm hopeful that I think we're moving in the right direction, but we have to keep up with it, and it's,
Yeah, I mean, and I'm hopeful too, even at the federal level, you know, that the
Yeah.
funding for special ed gets pushed to where, because I think that's the other
Absolutely.
part of the piece.
yeah.
You know.
The federal government hasn't kept up with their responsibility in that, and the state didn't have the ability for many years to fill in that gap, and so it just went to you all to try to figure out how to do that. So I agree. I'm hopeful that the federal government will actually fund that, at least much closer to the percentage that they're supposed to.
Yeah, that they promised.
Yes.
I just hope education as a whole, sure, special ed too.
Yeah,
And
for
support
sure.
of teachers, but just education as a whole, because these
Yeah.
kids have kind of had a big pushback, or whichever, because of COVID.
Yep.
And they're still feeling remnants of that.
Absolutely.
And so we've got to keep them going and keep them motivated and give them all the tools they need.
Yeah.
Now, Director Chester mentioned earlier about the hold harmless for compensatory. So just to continue that direct certification, Medicare has been great. That paperwork is it's like wrestling with a bear.
Yep.
If you've ever wrestled, think of wrestling
Has
with a
the
bear.
process,
So it actually helps that direct certification, yes.
okay,
So that's on our current platform, but we
Yep.
are seeing the actual results of that.
Yeah.
That's great.
yeah, I think everybody sort of assumed that that would be a thing that just happened, and I honestly think like the process of going to free lunches really helped people see how intensive that work was every single year, like to just keep up with that. And there had to be a better process.
Yeah.
And so not, taking it out of silos, you have all the
Right.
information and just
Exactly.
having parents jump through another hoop to have them complete the application for free benefits.
Yep.
It just eases the burden for our families,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
So the certification process has been working
Yeah.
well.
Direct certification through the Medicare,
Good.
Medicaid, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then, I mean, it's not a legislative platform, but something that we're working on for this election year is renewing our tech levy.
Okay.
So that's a big push for us too, because, I mean, without that tech levy, we wouldn't have been as prepared for the pandemic with tech for our students, for our district. We were further along and more prepared, I think, than some districts were because of our tech levy.
And so that's been, has that been 10 years?
Yes, already, it's 2015. Yeah, 2015 is up next year.
Next year,
So,
So it's on November's ballot.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Pre-K,
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
How's pre-K?
Oh, they're just great. We got additional slots, and so we filled up. Yep, so, yes, much sought after by our parents.
I'm sure.
Pre-K, so that's been a great, the 4-year-olds and just childcare in general, with,
Yeah.
as you said, there are many more parents in the legislature, so that is so needed.
Desperately. I think we are very much at a crisis point where we were going through some data from the state demographer, and just the difference for a family who's like all roughly the same age, maybe has 2 kids in childcare or 2 kids, under kindergarten age. And if they were able to buy a house before 2012, or if their kids are older than kindergarten, so they're in school full-time, it's like night and day what your costs are as a family.
Yeah.
To have, like, the cost of housing just skyrocketed at that point, and then the cost of childcare is now absolutely absurd. So really just the luck of the draw of when, families were able to make those decisions, and it is not sustainable
No.
at the current level.
No, I remember Violet, my daughter's daycare bill was more than our mortgage monthly. And I needed a second job to have her in daycare.
Yeah. When I had my oldest, I quit working because it was my salary. Like, it was my entire salary was childcare costs. And we decided that at that amount,
Yeah,
I should be with her. I should be the one with her.
Yeah.
And, that worked for our family, but it doesn't work for every family.
no,
So our
And-
parents are very appreciative.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
It's really something that will be a focus for sure this legislative session.
yeah.
Good.
Are there things in terms of our district or our constituents that you would want to hear or learn from as you go into this legislative session?
Yeah, we're always interested in on the education side of things, like what's working in the classroom, how are class sizes, are those things, do teachers and parents feel supportive for their kids? I think also a thing that I personally track a lot about is housing. Like, is housing for students stable? How many students and families do we have in our district that are in unstable housing situations? How are we providing benefits to those, providing as much support as we can? Increasingly, there's high school kids couch surfing as their families are struggling to find stable housing, and just has such a profound impact on education. And so as the housing chair, that's an area that I like to keep a closer eye on. And then, obviously the breakfast and lunches at school is a huge help, but that doesn't mean that our students have food at home at night or on the weekends. And I know the district does
We
a
have brain
lot of
power.
work
Brain
for
power in the
that,
backpack.
For
which
the
is
weekends.
amazing. And so making sure, do you have the resources you need for that? Do families know how to access it? And are we reaching all of the people who need it? I think, those are if you don't have stable food and housing, and the place that is most likely to get sort of caught and resources connected is at school. Like, teachers and principals and educators are the ones who see those things. So you all are first stop on the ground to be able to make sure that those families get the resources that they need. So making sure that you all have what you need to understand that and find those kids and reach out and provide that support is really critical.
Great.
Other committee assignments? So you're chair of the
Chair of the Housing Committee. I sit on the Energy Committee, the Transportation Committee, and the Elections Committee. So we're doing also a lot of outreach about the new pre-registration that high school students can do, which is great. Really, any work that we can do to engage high school students in the political process. Civic engagement, I think, is so critical. Senator Steve Swedzinski, I think, has drilled that into all of us as a former social studies teacher and civics teacher, that just, if we can get kids interested and understanding that they have a voice that matters, that's how we make lifelong voters. So that's...
Steve Simon, he gave a great presentation at AMSD.
I was just thinking
fantastic.
about that. I was thinking about, should I mention that, but yeah. They did about pre-registering seniors.
Yeah.
So
Now,
when
after
they're
you're-
17, so that they can kind of pre-register, so they'll be registered for voting when they're 18.
Yep.
And get them interested in it.
And so one other thing I did hear from a parent, they, for the election judges,
Yes.
they can also
They
do
can-
that. Some of our students, our high school students have participated, but they are a little concerned about security.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
Well,
just keep that in mind, too.
Yep, it's something we're watching really carefully. It's a great opportunity for kids,
Yeah.
but also
Yep.
just wanting to
Yes.
make sure that we're providing the kind of
yeah, security.
safe and secure environment that hopefully all election judges would experience, but
And then also that we want to be number one in voter turnout. 'cause
Absolutely.
Did we beat Massachusetts this year? I
Always.
think it's, yes, we
Yes.
have good civic.
We
As you've
do.
changed the world's best workforce, it's
yes,
civic readiness
Absolutely.
too. Yes,
you know, and
our
then I
good
think
citizens here.
the other thing, especially with my own kids in school, that I think about is school safety. Is you know, you and I were talking on the way in about the social media threat things that are going around and
Absolutely, yeah.
that sort of
that's-
thing. But in general, you know, I know
Right.
for teachers in the classroom, for kids,
Students,
for
yeah,
parents,
yeah.
it is unfortunately on all of our minds way too often.
Yes.
And, you know, I know.
So we actually launched a new parent series this year. We had it piloted at a
Right.
few schools with Erin Walsh and Jacob Wetterling Foundation. And so that's part of it is social media safety, internet. We got really good feedback from our parents last year, and so we've offered it district-wide, a series of 4. So,
Like cyberbullying, I think was
yes.
on it. and-
hmm Good turnout, about
That's
50
good.
to 60 participants the first series, and good feedback.
yeah.
It was needed. It is a reality, and
It absolutely
So
is.
safety.
I mean, it's-
physical safety,
Oh, and
social
kids are
media
getting so much
safety.
younger with phones and
Yes.
stuff that they don't quite know they're not unsure of the etiquette. Like they might
Yeah.
do something that they maybe didn't intentionally do, or when they're escalated, they
Yep.
burst without thinking, and then
Sure, they don't
and
have,
it-
don't have that control.
Little
to-
buffer.
Yeah.
So on our platform, we did have support for mental health supports. It's just incredible to me, the exposure that kids have through social media to bullying and other things, and it's just
huge.
Yeah.
Yep. As
Unrealistic
a child in middle school, it's
expectations
just
of-
like I was like,
Middle school's hard enough, I feel
like,
like, without having your whole life be online forever for,
yes.
you know, everyone to comment on. and-
Right.
And I just heard on the news, on some news story, I don't know if it was 2020, but some news story that they were talking about some states are actually starting to mandate that kids not have a phone before age 16.
Yeah, so it is March 2025, we have to have our cell phone policy. So we are vetting it and getting some feedback, so we'll be bringing that to the board. So you passed that last year.
Yep.
Yep, the cell phone policy, so.
Yeah. I'm amazed though how well, if we catch information, like how it's investigated and they can figure out where it comes from. It's
Travels
amazing.
Fast, yeah.
It's amazing. It
Travel fast.
completely boggles my brain. It's like, wow, how'd you figure that? That's
It's not
amazing.
good.
But in the time it takes
Yeah.
for them to figure that, out, which isn't very long.
No, but still.
Thousands of kids
Yeah.
have
That's the thing.
Yeah.
and
The
passed
negative
it.
aspect has already happened, and then we're trying to, fight that.
Right,
Safe
right.
schools
Quickly, but
funding
still.
is
Yeah, I
more
know.
than bricks and mortar, is what we kind of,
Yeah,
there's a lot
that's-
tied into that. That
that's
it's just
really true.
not physical safety, it's other mental supports and.
Oh, yeah.
Do right now, before we passed the legislation requiring a cell phone policy, did the district have a cell phone policy, or was it sort of school to school?
Yeah.
Just sort of,
So we have procedures at the school, so,
Practice, yeah.
that you have to put away during class time.
Sure.
But this is really trying some other things
Yeah.
that they're putting in place, and then that will inform the policy draft we bring to our policy review committee. Yes, so instruction, and it's interesting, at the last board meeting, our student board rep commented they want us to think about, can they have it in study hall? You know, so they know we're getting feedback from them, how it
I'm
works.
sure.
The kids have their
Oh, yeah.
perspective, and then the age too,
yeah.
you know, middle versus high school,
Yeah,
so. But yes, that legislation.
or even
will be ready.
elementary. I mean,
Yeah.
they're, I think in
Yeah.
4th grade, there was kids
Get
with
the
cell
pressure.
phones already. You know, it's
My
like-
son gave my grandson one in 6th grade, and I'm like, a cell phone? 6th grade?
Yep.
Well,
My daughter
I mean,
makes a case.
5th grade, because he's in 6th grade now, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you took care of the school resource officer, yes.
Yes.
Our resource
thank you.
officers are back, thanks for that clarity.
And did something fun at the football
Well,
game the
game.
other day.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
They're just getting into the school spirit. Our
Yeah.
student section is just phenomenal, a lot of school spirit.
What was it? It was like,
It was the
you better
homecoming
cheer, you
kids.
get arrested or something like that.
Sign that said cheer or go to jail.
Yeah, that was it.
This is so part of the community. They're all glad they're back. We're glad,
Yeah.
they're glad. The kids are glad.
Yeah, yeah.
They're just a
Everybody's
big part
glad.
of the community, so.
So let's see, and I don't know if you have copies or were able to get copies of the, like, we had AMSD put out some survey results from the questionnaire that we had filled out, and so, you know, a big voice came out that, of course, the formula increase or adjustment was a priority, cross-subsidy funding, what is, local optional revenue referendum adjustments was in the, was that top 3. Unemployment insurance was 4. Long-term facilities maintenance was 5. Equalization with referendums and levies was the next one. It was tied with compensatory funding. The READ Act was after that, school safety and
School safe.
revenue and technology, and then a few was mental health, teacher pathway funding, fund mandates, increased operating referendum cap.
Yep, so we'll see where they land.
Yeah.
Next month or the next month after.
How is the district looking with like long-term facility maintenance and upkeep? Are we in pretty good shape?
So the 10-year plan, yeah, so, yeah, we're getting the projects done. So we just put a roof on last year, so that'll go off. So those big things like that, you need a roof, you need a generator. One thing we are going to be coming to the board about is some storage for food, because with the no cost meals, we are ordering more food. Go
Sure,
figure.
yeah.
And then we need better equipment. So right now, I think we're good. We'll see. And then, yeah. Well, is anything else
I'm
to
not
add
quite
on that?
understanding the scale document.
Oh, I can share that.
Okay. Because
So-
I'm like,
The
there's-
Scott County, they also are doing some priority planning. So for the education one, they have everything together, because you have the mayors, you have
Yeah.
the counties. So really the per pupil formula, they're happy about the school resource officers. But the member survey results, priority on school safety, came up, of course, the per pupil. Then they have an interest on the education platform with retirement. That's something that's different. TRA. And some of the districts in Scott County are QComp districts. We are QComp. But we'll see where that lands with their education.
Oh, to reduce the retirement age to
And
60.
Representative Ben, he comes to the meetings. Why am I forgetting his last name? Ben, he's the middle school. Okay, I apologize.
They said
So he
another
keeps up to date. Okay.
Yeah.
proposal for 2025, they'd like, for our county, more hazardous waste facility, or more concern about that.
Yeah.
Guess we're not keeping up with that.
Yeah.
Oh, because where is that?
Yep, so
Now it's hazardous waste.
still, so we'll see when they finalize.
And we get MSBA's too.
Right.
Yeah,
so I
because
haven't
those
seen
will
that
come out
one.
as well. And then we'll kind of add to it, and then we'll definitely send you our new legislative platform. And then we do participate in MSBA Day on the Hill, so we'll
be
be
there.
definitely setting up visits to come see you all too. So,
Yeah.
and we really do find that valuable to be able to, have that time with you
Yeah,
as well.
Face-to-face time.
Yep.
It's good. Yeah, we were talking earlier, the house is under renovation, so they're in cubicles, so that'll be interesting.
That will
How we
be.
visit.
Yeah, if it, like for days like that, if it works, to have Jess and Kayla come over to my office and have us all meet together rather than
Yeah.
hop into cubicles and things like that, more than happy to
Because we would
host.
also have Senator Carlson too.
Oh, yeah, he's 3 office doors down from me.
Yeah,
So,
yep.
actually, he's got a bigger office than me, so we could go to him.
He does.
So it'll be here before we know it.
Yeah, it will.
I mean,
It will.
do they change at all?
I guess it depends, because there is a special election this year, so assuming that Democrats stay in the majority, then there's a few people that shift offices, but I don't think anyone in our hallway is talking about it,
Okay.
so.
Because I remember like there was a shift, like I think it was like floor shift or
Yes,
something.
when the majority shifts, so my first 2 years, we were on the second floor.
Yes, yeah,
And
yeah,
now we're up on the third floor.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. That's what so I always remember visiting Senator Carlson when I was there for a homeless day on the Hill.
Yes.
And he had and it was always the same spot. And so I was surprised to
And
go, I
then
was like, he
suddenly-
moved.
Yeah.
He's not where he's supposed to be.
but we'll be there.
Hopefully we'll be still up on
In the
third
same
floor.
spots.
Yeah.
Yes. Very cool.
We'll find you.
And Sarah, and it's great about helping organize those meetings for us too,
Yes.
so, on your team, so.
Sarah's always
Your
great
assistants,
about
your staff are really good arranging your schedule with ours.
Be next year, though.
It'll be in March, yeah, it'll be it'll be during their
We'll be
legislative
here.
session.
In March.
You could still
I can still be-
participate
I was gonna
until.
say I can still
Oh,
come.
yeah.
Yes,
Running
because
for
we
re-election.
want our community
You're
to
still
be
a
joining us.
citizen,
We'll have more
a resident of
Yes,
Minnesota.
there we go.
So don't let me forget that.
I
will.
Let me
Yes.
stay in touch.
Yes.
Because
Because we want our constituency to
yes.
join us.
Absolutely, yeah. And
It's amazing when groups of people come.
it really does make a difference. It's pretty hard as a legislator to sit there with constituents and
For the people.
not be moved by it. It really is the most effective way to lobby for change is real people's stories.
Well, thank you. Do you have anything else for us, or anything we can tell our constituents here, our neighbors and families?
Really appreciate, especially Superintendent Battle, how engaged you always are and not afraid to make sure that I know what I need to know. I appreciate that. I don't sit on the education committees, so it really is, I don't always hear it right away. So it really is helpful to know what's critically important to our districts, helps sort of weed through all the noise to really focus on what's critical here at home. So just delighted to stay in relationship with you. My office door is always open. And I'm also always happy to do Zoom meetings too. So if it's easier to pop on Zoom, if we, in between now and when it's the day on the Hill, if we
Yeah.
want to just do a run through of priorities, I'm always happy to do that as
That's
well.
awesome. Thank you.
whatever
That's great.
Yes, we do. We appreciate that, your
Yeah.
care and concern for that. We really do.
Yeah.
I mean, it matters, and I, with changes in my own health over the last few years, I've had to figure out new ways to do things, and then have learned that some of those ways work pretty good, and we should use them for other reasons too.
All
So,
in this together, yes.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And we value-
Don't hope for school from home anytime soon. Again, if I
Right.
ever have been a bigger supporter of teachers than when my kids were trying to learn from home, I think that was an experience for all of us.
right.
But just like really appreciate how the district has
Oh,
worked
you're
to
welcome.
support kids going back through that. I know my youngest was a kindergartner when the pandemic hit, and it was fourth grade before she had a normal year at school, a full normal year.
Yeah, that's right. Mhm.
And that's
That's right.
like
Yeah.
a whole generation of kids
Yeah.
whose school experience were really changed, and it's a lot for schools to pick back up and support and put together. So just
It's-
really
yeah.
grateful for the work you all are doing.
And we see that in different student groups from
Sure.
different grade levels too. So like even with different classes of high schoolers graduating where they landed in the pandemic, it's had an impact on post-secondary decisions and all
Absolutely,
that.
I'm
And,
sure.
or if it's happened in middle school, how are they now going into high school? And yeah, my daughter was in the first grade when the pandemic started, so it was just kind of like, oh,
Yeah.
Took a little
the
while.
entire elementary experience then
Right.
was
Yep.
sort of,
Affected their whole outlook.
yeah.
yeah. And so
yeah.
much social learning happens with those little ones at that age.
Oh, yeah.
that Just,
But I mean, like my son was just a new freshman in the high school too, and it
can't
happened.
even
And
imagine
it
that.
was,
Like,
I mean, he wanted to stay home after. He did not want to go back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're going back.
yeah, I mean, you adjust and get used to it, right? Kids are resilient, and they do that.
And they follow our lead, so.
Yep, they follow
So
our
important
lead.
for us.
Well, and I think one of the things that really we've listened and benefited from, I did not have my son participate in our virtual academy, but we listened and realized that there's a bunch of our families and our students who really value that virtual opportunity, and we have a very great virtual academy here.
Yeah, there's lots of reasons that that's the right fit for families, and they're not all the same reasons.
Right.
And,
Yep.
well,
Yeah.
we learned, I guess, trial by fire. We had to learn how to be try new things
Yeah,
and figure out
versatile.
new ways to do things and
Oh,
be
yeah.
flexible. But
Our mantra was, we'll figure it out together. If
Yeah.
you're trying to be alone in silos, you're not going to be able to get
Absolutely.
through this. And we really did. Parents, students, community. I remember we had a student who made these masks. Remember, he made the mask. It was a box full. So it really is together.
Yeah.
We did this.
I think
Yep.
a way that many, many people in our community would describe this school district is that it has an attitude of, we'll do it together, we're in this together. That's testament to all of you. So
Thanks.
thank you for your
Well,
work.
as well as you and your partnership too. We really value your support that helps benefit our community.
Of course. We're in it together,
We are
right?
in it together.
I agree. We're really student-driven. That's what I hear from the community.
So
And
much.
they do appreciate that. They all have their own different strides, and so everybody has different opinions about things, but for the most part, they really feel that our district is student-driven, that they really are there for the students. and the teachers. They love the teachers.
No, they're the best.
I've had the pleasure of going over to the high school a couple of different times and meeting with some of the student groups and doing some talking about the legislature sort of work and things like that. And we always have the best time. And every time I've come, one or more of the students have reached out later and said, I want to come to the Capitol and see this and see that. And it's just my favorite part of the job. Like, if I could just hang out with high school students all the time and like make them not be cynical about what government can do, that's just.
That should be a
best
field
part of
trip
the
they
job.
take, because luckily, even back in my day, we got to take a field trip to the Capitol.
Absolutely.
And that stuck with me. It was so interesting, because it was nothing that I envisioned, so it was awesome.
There's a lot of fourth grade classes that come, which feels good, but
Yeah.
also it feels like as high schoolers, like
They're a little
when
far away
they're a
from
little-
voting.
Yeah, they're a little
you're
young.
far away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's good to see, like, when you're learning about the different parts of government, to see that, like, that happens right here
Right.
in Minnesota. But I don't know, I feel like we've got to be better about opening up opportunities like that for high school students.
Yeah, I remember my senior year when I was way back long ago when I was in high school.
Mine's longer.
Probably not by much. We had the opportunity to go to Washington D.C. to learn U.S. government at the Capitol and meet with our, state representatives and senators and sit in on hearings and, really see what it is in Washington D.C. And it was only for a week, but it was so
Still.
much. I mean, that was amazing.
I bet that experience, however
Led you
far
to this
deep,
position.
had a hand
For
in
school
why you're
board.
sitting where you are.
I think it led a hand into knowing I had a voice.
Yeah, absolutely.
So besides being encouraged to do this type of role for our community, I've always have been active talking to my local legislators for things that I cared about for our community, and knowing that because I was doing that, my voice mattered
Yep.
in a way, and it's nice too because, and I know you have also, you all have a team of staff, but to get that response back from an email that your voice was heard, or even that little step further of like a little postcard or a little letter or something, I mean, that's huge.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, when you're up, if you're going to talk about homeless stay at the Hill too, we should talk about that. Get me started then and I won't stop talking. But
I know, depends on if it's a bonding year or a budget year.
no difference, but yes, I got very, very spoiled in my first year as the chair of the housing committee, and now I have not shut up about it since. I'm like, yeah, this is how we should fund housing, right? And they're like, yeah, Lindsay, do you know what the budget usually is? But we're not going to go back to that.
Yes.
So, thank you
Awesome.
very,
Well,
very much.
thank
I
you
look
so
forward to
much.
seeing the official,
Thank you for your time and coming.
priorities.
This concludes our committee meeting for tonight, and we'll meet again next month. And we'll see you then. Yep.